Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail.
Hey, everybody. Super welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Welcome to Transformation Talk Radio. And welcome to the network, transformationradio.fm. By the way, you know, one of the things we're thinking of is we have been in the process of looking at our brand change for the top network arena. And we had that in the works for a number of different years. Why? Because somewhere along the way, we got awake and aligned. And that's what today's show is about. Awake and aligned. You know, rock being human with spiritual alignment. Nova Wightman joining me here today. Like, here's the deal. What does that even mean? What does awake and aligned mean? But more importantly, how many of us have gone down the pathway of our lives and we've looked at sort of the outer makings of our lives, and it looked like we had everything that the world told us we needed to have. We had the big house, we had the job, we had the paycheck, you know, we had the 2 cars, whatever that is that was in your thing of we had it, you know, and yet on the inside, we were lonely. We felt overly sensitive to life. We thought, is this all there is? The other thing we thought is, will there ever be enough? And then some of us just didn't think at all. Well, Nova is joining us here today as an author, speaker, certified coach. We're going to tell you all about that. NLP practitioner, Reiki master, and Conversations with God coach. Beyond all of that, she's on a mission. And that's what I love. She's on a mission. She's on a mission to say, what the heck is up with spirituality? Why does it seem so absolutely out of aligned with the way people live their lives? Not all of us are going to go to Tibet and sit up on a mountain and do whatever people do in Tibet on a mountain. Well, I don't think they're going to Tibet anymore. But the point is this. What happens when you become a spiritual rock star? How do you do that? What does it mean to take your life, align everything up like a beautiful, beautiful masterpiece, cut away all the stuff that doesn't work for you, and then wake up one day and say, how does it get any better than this? Nova, it's great to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, let's start off for a little bit with a bit about you and a bit about, you know, your journey to get from where you were to where you are. You know, I'm a girl from New York. So when I have my sense of what we call spirituality, it may not be what the next person is talking about. But right. The one thing that I think we all discovered, we know when we're off our game. We know when we're off our game, and we have to wait till a near disaster to think, oh, do you think maybe it has something to do with my spirituality or my beliefs or something? How about you? What was it about your life where you went from being human as Nova to being now a coach, an author, somebody out in the world that says, I'm going to tell you what spiritual alignment is about, and it could be for you?
Yeah, great question. Long answer, but I'll give you the short one.
No, give me the long one.
The long one? You want the long one? Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So I was fortunate enough to be raised in sort of a spiritually oriented family, but also a very down-to-earth one as well. So to put it simply, my dad was an engineer and my mom was really into spirituality. So she used to take me to a church where at the end of each service, we would get messages from spirit and healings and all sorts of woo-woo stuff. And so that kind of was my norm growing up while I still had my feet firmly planted on the ground. And so spirituality was not a new concept for me when I was an adult. It was something that I grew up with, and I intentionally studied from a very young age. So along the way, though, and especially as a teenager, about 14 years old, when I first picked up the Conversations with God books by Neil Donald Walsh, that's when I really started to define my own spirituality. And I began to understand that spirituality isn't necessarily like all of this just metaphysical, unseen, kind of fluffy woo-woo stuff. It's just an awareness. It's living your life consciously and with awareness of who you are and deciding and declaring who you want to be. And so that became my framework as I began to, well, first and foremost, finish growing up, although I don't think that's ever done. And then also in my 20s, just really beginning to build my career around that so that I could assist others the same. But I've been exposed to and have experienced a lot of the stuff that's out there. And that practical side of me has always been a huge driving force. So along the way, I developed this whole concept or this whole practice or method that I dubbed spiritual alignment. Because what I noticed was, like you were saying a minute ago, not everybody was aligned with their beliefs. That they knew them, we knew what we believed, we knew there was more than what we see to this world, but we weren't necessarily living from that place in a consistent way. And then B, most people, including myself for a while, we were compartmentalizing. So we had our human selves and we had our spiritual selves. And we would either lead from this place or we would lead from this place, but they rarely intermingled. And, with that, it causes a lot of discontent, disconnect, all the stuff that makes life hard. Yeah. And so the method that I created was really designed to blend the two and merge your spiritual self with your human self so that you can begin living your life in alignment with who you really are, but in practical, functional ways, not super airy-fairy in the clouds way.
Well, and what I love about this is, sometimes you have to hit a threshold of pain. Yeah. And I don't mean just like, oh, my body hurts, but it could be your body hurting. Or maybe it is something going on in a relationship, but there is a threshold of pain that you can come to the very edge of it and you can start to feel it. Or if you're like me, it's going to take you a lot longer to figure it out. And you might find yourself in the middle of pain and you're no longer on the threshold. You're knee deep in it. And even at that point, there are things we can do, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about this idea we have that being human is not good. Yeah. And what I mean by that is we talk about it in like awkward ways, like, that's the ego. So it's almost like we're like, dissing the fact that we are human beings and forget the reality that if we weren't meant to be human beings, guess what? Wouldn't be them. Right? Why do we do that? I mean, what's underneath that? Is there something there about us that will never resolve, or is it something else?
I never say never in my book. I think that there are no limits to life and that anything and everything is possible. So if you notice a limit, it's merely your indication that that's where you get to put your focus so you can challenge it and expand within it. But what's underlying beneath it is, well, a couple of things. I believe that our souls come here to experience and express our divinity, to experience who we really are in this realm of the relative, the yin and the yang, the up and the down, with all this contextual relativity. And so in order to experience who we really are, there requires this sort of forgetting. We forget who we really are. So we come into this world and over time, we're conditioned to see and believe other things that actually don't line up with who we are. And we start to function from that place until, like you said a moment ago, it's usually like that threshold for pain thing comes into play and we can't take it anymore. Something has to change. It's like a breakdown before the breakthrough until we start remembering who we really are and then living from that place. And when you do, then you enter this kind of weird level, if you will, when you're in sort of like the spiritual community or the land of being a spiritual seeker, and you're exposed to all sorts of other challenges and elements that are at play. And there's this sort of this idea that I've noticed, that I've observed, and at one time participated in, that being human was something that needed to be overcome, that actually it wasn't a good thing, that you had to transcend beyond your human qualities and reach that status of Buddha on the mountaintop, supreme being, weird smile of bliss on your face all day long. And I really don't think that's the point of being here and being a spiritual being, having a human experience. We came for the human stuff. So we don't want to start off by condemning that or denying those parts of ourselves. I find that it works much better. It's a much more satisfying experience if instead you embrace those parts of who you are and merge them with the divinity, the divine self, the higher self, whatever you want to call it, that you are allowing to unfold as you engage in this process of alignment.
Well, one of the things that I really love talking with you about, and we're going to talk about it more when we come back, is, what does this mean to us in our day-to-day life? How have you created a way for people to really tap into the process of it so that we can make adjustments even if we don't know we're making them, right? That there are things that we can do, even if we don't know that we are doing them consciously, but we do them because we've learned something. There's a method to our madness, so to speak. Yeah. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about what does awake and aligned mean. We're going to give you lots of information, but I also want to put it out there for you. What is it that you have found super challenging about your own spiritual journey? Because this would be the time to get some help with Nova. Then we're going to tell you about our upcoming radio show, this and a whole lot more. Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back. Yeah, everybody. Hey, welcome, welcome. Guess what? Really super excited to introduce all of you to Nova. But by the way, Awake and Aligned. Now, this is what we're talking about. It's also, for those of you out there, it's also the title of her book. And we're going to talk about the book. More importantly, I want you to know everything you could possibly imagine about Nova, including her upcoming radio show. And so, Nova, what is the best way for people to find out more about you, your show, how to work with you, all of the above?
Yeah, thank you. The best way is just to simply visit my website, which is www.novawightman.com. And Wightman is spelled, Nova is spelled N-O-V as in Victor, A, like the shooting star, not the Chevy Nova. And Wightman is W-I-G-H-T-M-A-N. NovaWightman.com. And when you go there, you can find everything you need about the book, the radio show, the working with me, as well as contact me to get a little bit of help from other people that I've brought on board as well, because there are a lot of people who are wanting this kind of work right now, more than I can handle myself. So I've actually had the privilege of honor of bringing more people onto my team that I know get this alignment stuff and are really good at helping others apply it to their own lives as well. So we can hook you up with everything. Yeah.
I am so glad to hear you say you did that. Because a lot of times we think we got to do it all. And, right? And then all of a sudden we wonder why we're burning out. We wonder why there's not enough time in a day. Mm-hmm. We wonder why maybe we lost a little bit of our flame, but not all of it. Mm-hmm. And, this is also, too, being part and learning the method, which I want to talk with you about today, right?
Mm-hmm.
The method so that doesn't happen.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
who wants that to happen? Raise your hand. Nobody. You're
Nobody.
not raising your hand right now, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about what you discovered and what you've then created for people to learn so that we can truly live the lives we desire, right?
Yeah. So, like many people who identify as being on a spiritual path, I got to a point, after I had kind of worked through a lot of my human story. None of us is exempt from hardship and trauma and trials and tribulations and all that jazz. I'm not exempt from that either. I do have a story, but I had gotten to a point where I had worked on it consciously enough and gathered enough pieces of this sort of spiritual puzzle where I understood so many things, but I didn't know how to put it together in a cohesive way where it made sense and I could start building some consistent momentum in the direction that I wanted. And it was about almost 7 years ago, actually, where I came to this point where I was just like, all right, something's got to change. I have to start doing something differently. At that point, I was a coach already. I did my training, my certification. I was about, 5 years in, 4 years in, something like that. But I was a talented coach with no clients, at least no paying clients. I had some pro bono clients and some barter clients, of course. And I was giving them all these or helping them achieve these great results. But I myself was not making any money. And, I'm living with my husband and then we had one daughter. She was about 2 years old. And it just, something had to change. I knew it could be better. I had identified this perceived limit, like I said a moment ago, and I knew it was time to bust through it. And as it would happen, when you ask, you shall receive.
Yeah,
And
boy.
yeah, so the universe kind of orchestrated it in a really cool way where I rendezvoused with a person that became my coach. And I wasn't in the market to hire a coach. I certainly couldn't afford one at the time. And I ended up having this sample session or consult with this guy. And then I knew right in that moment, like, oh boy, this is it. Something's about to change and he's going to help me do it. He was part of the catalyzation of that.
Yeah.
And so he helped me put together a lot of those pieces of the spiritual puzzle. And one of the ways that he did that was that he started me on a daily practice.
Yeah.
And the best part about that is, first of all, it was super scary to hire him because he was not cheap. And I had to use money I did not have and really take not only a leap of faith for myself, but my poor husband who's had to do that so many times with me. But thank God that's just who he is. He
Yeah.
believed in me. And right away, my coach told me, here we're going to start you on this daily practice of 7 habits that you do every single day without fail. And if you stop doing them, I'm going to fire you and keep your money. And I said, okay, because that's what I knew I needed. I wasn't doing it on my own. I didn't have the accountability, and I was so scattered by all of the external noise. And what those daily practices did was help me focus my energy, focus some of my 60,000 plus thoughts a day in a specific intentional direction. And that's when the magic started to unfold.
I like that. And as a matter of fact, that is actually the way I coach people too.
Yeah.
And why do we do that? It's because I don't know about you, but I know where my soft spots are. I know where the soft spots are. And what I mean by that is it's like if you ever walk on a lake that is frozen over, one of the things you learn from your parents or from the smart people about that is how to test the ice. And if we only use some of that in our day-to-day lives, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so, there's that part of us, I think, that really does want to change. But the question really is, Nova, how badly do we want it? Right?
Yeah.
How badly do we want it? And, it's like a job, right? You go to a job and you work with somebody and they say, I'm going to teach you this stuff, right? You need to do this exercise, go watch this video. And 6 months later, you turn around because you don't have any way to assist and check and balance, and nobody's watched anything.
Yep.
In the work you do, you're really here to help people. In in those of us that hire others, we don't want to spend thousands of dollars and at the end of that journey be the same or worse than we were. And I would imagine that wasn't you.
Oh, no, no, no. All I needed was that little push and that accountability and to raise the stakes to just, and then it was like a no-brainer. I was going to do the work and I was going to do it consistently.
Well, let's talk about this. Now you are working with other people. You've trained other people. You have now growing a community of people, of coaches that understand what spiritual alignment is, but understands that there is a how-to. This is what you can do to make the changes. What are the greatest obstacles you think, or have you found, where people may come to the table, I want it, and yet obstacle 1 shows up, then obstacle 2 shows up, then obstacle 3 shows up, whatever that might be. We are human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, there's this little unknown or lesser known law out there in the cosmos that I find really helps to be aware of. Everybody kind of knows about the law of attraction, but they don't really know about this thing called the law of opposites. And this comes from the Conversations with God material. And I first read about it when I was 14, but didn't understand how to enact it till maybe 6 years ago. So, and I'm now 37. So, what it states is that, aside from everything having its yin and yang, you can't know hot without the existence of cold. You can't know up without the existence of down. But it also states that the moment we declare ourselves to be something or want something, the universe will send us the opposite of it in some way.
No.
And it'll either happen directly in our experience or where we're observing it somewhere. So I encourage the listeners, don't get too afraid of this concept because it's actually for our benefit. Because when the opposite shows up, we're given the opportunity to decide and declare again that thing we want. And it emphasizes it in our experience. So for example, if you find yourself declaring someday like, oh, I'm so ready for this change. I'm going to hire this coach and she's going to help me and we're going to work together and things are really going to change for the better. And then the next day your car breaks down and you have to pay, $1,500 to get it fixed or something like that.
Right.
And that immediately in the human mind says, oh, crap. I can't do that. It's not responsible for me to do this. I guess I'll put that happy life on hold and tend to this little experience. Or something along the lines of, does the universe hate me? Like, what did I do to deserve this?
Right.
And it really challenges people. But when you understand that that's merely the law of opposites engaging with the law of attraction, engaging with this process of conscious co-creation and giving you the opportunity to get that experience, to experience yourself as abundant and committed to your journey, then you can choose, you can see that illusion for what it is and say, okay, I'll pay for my car and I'll pay for this coaching. It'll work out. The universe has my back. Life is always working for me. And that's when you change that pattern in your belief and in your thoughts and in your actions, that's when everything else converges. It's like the universe swoops in to support that and give you all of the things that match that as well, such as success, happiness, abundance, peace, all that good stuff.
I love this. And we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this. There was a study recently done, and what the study talked about was about new employee trends, right? And so the study says, right, that only 2%, right, only 2% know the company's top 3 objectives. I'm not surprised by that. Being in the corporate world for 25 years almost, I'm not surprised. And so then they say, but wait a minute, if the managers help me align, there's that word, align goals with needs, oh boy, productivity. But here's the game changer. This is what we're starting to look at now. And this is right with what you're saying. This is shocking to a lot of people, but not to you and me and not to our listeners. They are talking about the fact that if in fact people know their purpose, they know there's a purpose, we're all coming together, we got a purpose. The numbers and the statistics on what percent now are motivated more because of purpose is shocking. And we're going to talk about that and what the end game is for spiritual alignment. Nova Wightman, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. We're taking your calls, by the way, 1-800-930-2819. Or if you're on Facebook, just type in a comment. Or if you go to our website, just ask a question. We'll be right back. Oh, let me date myself right now, Benny. That reminds me of when Eric Clapton went and decided to go spend time in the Caribbean and, created a whole album of music around that. Why? Because he aligned himself with the culture, with the energy of it, and became awake in a whole nother way. But if you're not Eric Clapton and you don't feel like going to an island, you probably should think about calling Nova. Nova, how can people find out more about you? Tell us about the book and tell us about the giveaway too.
Yeah, thank you. Love your transitions. So again, the website to reach me at is www.novawightman, NOVAWIGHTMAN.com. And actually, if you go there /gift, you can claim your free gift, which really is a 3-day mini e-course to raising your vibration. And it goes along. I created it so that it gives you sort of a taste where, don't take my word for it. Don't listen to me spout off about this stuff, but actually try it on for size yourself. And here are some very specific ways that you can consistently raise your vibration for 3 days and see what happens as a result. So that mini e-course is available to you there at novawightman.com /gift. And you can reach me there as well.
Yes, spell Wightman for everybody.
WIGHTMAN. And I blame my husband for that. Actually, his family. I know they're listening right now too. So.
I love it. Okay, look, we were talking during the break, and I really mean it. That was a true story about Eric Clapton, by the way. He did pick himself up and go to the islands, and what is the song? I Stopped the Sheriff or something about the sheriff. And then he did a whole album because he did have an awakening of sorts. Today's world, I want to talk about the first part of your book, Awake. And the reason I want to talk about that is because I know that I've gone through a large part of my life having awakenings that I didn't know were awakenings. All I knew was I woke up and I was different. I felt different. Mm-hmm. And that happened to me in the corporate world. It's not that it happened overnight. You could see how it was coming. But when I woke up, it happened. And I didn't know what was happening. So I went into my big corporate job and my big fat salary and my big HR position, and I'm supposed to implement a downsizing. And I pretty much told all of the vice presidents, everybody in HR, all my bosses, everybody there, I can't repeat what I said to them, but I will tell you, I became a rebel overnight. And I don't think that's like that for everybody. So I wanted to hear from you. What are the 50 shades of awakening?
Yeah, great question. So typically, in my experience and observation, I've noticed that most people have their awakening as this, there's something facilitated it, like something that just pushed them to the edge or caused them to break down and question life as it is. And then all of a sudden they had this new awareness, and that there's more out there than people are saying, that people are talking about, that believing is seeing, not seeing is believing. And it's marked by this, it's almost like there's no choice to continue living that way. Like they can't possibly go another day, breathe another breath the way that they had been living. And it's usually something catalyzes that. There's some sort of event. I've had clients tell me that, they've been in a career for, 10, 20 years, and then they just couldn't do it anymore. And they wanted to leave their cushy corporate position and start, a business as a Reiki practitioner or something, which, the income from those two things are slightly different. But for them, it wasn't a choice. They had to do it. And so it's marked by that sort of pain or traumatic event, or some sort of big breakdown before the breakthrough event, or several. And also just this yearning for more. You find yourself curious and wanting to learn more and expand more on what's out there and what's available to us in life. We're noticing that our relationships are not as satisfying. The foods we eat, the environments that we find ourselves in just no longer do it for us. So there's a sort of for a while at least, there's this dissatisfaction with the way things are, and also this internal knowing that it can be better, that there's more out there, and that we can all actually claim it. So that's the awake part. You start to notice more, you're feeling more, you're intuiting more, even if you're not making quite a lot of sense of it yet, but everything's different.
Yeah. Listen, I love this. I'm like fired up over this now, because part of my journey is I just started to do things. Now, I'm not saying that what happened to me was wrong, because if I had not really followed my gut and done these things, I wouldn't be talking to you today. Not one bit. I wouldn't live in Seattle, wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have gone back to school. I certainly wouldn't have applied for a doctoral program knowing that my GRE scores were really like, seriously. I wouldn't have done it. But I want to ask you about the sense of intuition that comes along with this process. I call it intuition. You could call it what you want. You could call it gut feeling. But there's something else invisible to us that could be our friend.
Yeah. I find that it comes in many different ways, where you're starting to sense things intuitively, and whether it's precognition, you know things are going to happen before they do, or you notice a pattern of, oh, I'm thinking of this person, and then all of a sudden they're calling me, or I was just had this song in my head and then I go start my car and it's on the radio, and you start to notice these synchronicities, seeing the same number patterns, seeing the same kind of animal cross your path, and conversations lining up with the right people at the right time, sort of thing. And it's like you're tuning into the magic that's around you, and that kind of alerts you, like, okay, there's something more. Now what should I do with that?
It's fascinating. Let's get real term. Let's get like super real. Okay, so I have a friend that is like, oh my gosh, I'm like in the middle of a big thing with my business. I need some additional funding. So I said, why don't you go like on the web? And there are really great places where you can explore this, right? Or you could go to your bank or whatever you want to do. She says, no, I don't want to go to my bank. Okay, so that told me something about the bank. But anyway, just go online. I said, I've had great luck with this, especially for us as we're growing and expanding. So she goes online, Nova, right? And she's like, blah, blah, blah. This is my name, Mary Jo. And she calls me in the middle of like the form. And she said, I'm afraid to ask for what I need. And I was like, okay, what do you mean? You just what's the problem? Are they you're afraid? Are they going to run a credit thing? She said, no, there's a line here where they ask, how much would you like? Right? The money. I said, well, how much what do you desire? What's your desire? Like, well, and I said, okay, let's make it simple. Is it 5, 10, 15, 20, or 50,000? Which is it? Well, it's kind of like 20, but it could be 30. I said, what amount would give you everything you want tomorrow? Oh, that's 50. Put it in. And so puts it in. So here we go. I want to talk with you about this when we come back. Puts it in. The next thing you know, phones jumping off the hook, emails coming in from 60 different funding places. Uh, she calls me back. When we come back from break, I want to tell you what happened, and I want to hear what kind of awakening and alignment we need to have. Because when the universe shows up, whether it's this, whether it's a loved one, whether it's a husband, a wife, a child, a car, I got an orange car showed up. It doesn't matter what it is. What is it about our fear that could get us there or not? I'm not answering that. Nova's going to answer that. We're going to take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back. Yeah, boy, I tell you what that's gonna mean. That's music you're playing. I'm just gonna have to go down to the restaurant down there and get me some Jamaica jerk sandwiches, Benny, after this.
That sounds pretty good right now.
I'm telling you. Woo, that's a good one. Wow, what a great show. Nova, you've got an upcoming radio show. Very excited about it. I want to talk about it a little bit, give people a website, but also that question that I was asking or putting out there really has to do with learning some tools so that when these situations show up, when a scenario shows up, that we don't necessarily set the acts of our past as what might happen in our future. And I know you're going to talk about that. But before we get there, please, again, website, how can we find about the radio show? How can we work with you? All of the above.
Yes, novawightman.com. NOVAWIGHTMAN. You can go there, find a link to my book. You can get your 3-day free mini e-course to raising your vibration and getting you into that receiving mode. And that's how you can contact me to either work with me or somebody that I've brought on board who's equally as wonderful at this work. So what you were talking about before the break, it's interesting because there is this sort of phenomenon that I've noticed too, where, we all want these things to come to us and we're putting it out there to the universe, and then they do and we don't receive it. we miss out on it and fear comes up, or we're just not paying close enough attention. We're not giving these things the credit that they deserve. And when you're asking me, what is that and what do you do about that? How I explain it is, when we've actually allowed in those things that we're calling forth, a lot of times we revert back to our old programming, our old way of being, the old habits and patterns of thought and beliefs. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve this. This is too good to be true. I can't handle this. What was I thinking? And we haven't really built up our receiving muscle. So one of the very first things I do with my clients is I get them, just like my coach did with me, I get them on a very specific set of daily practices that I've seen that are really universal. And they incorporate, we blend them with any practices that the client may already have in place or want to. So it is tailored to their experience. But these specific practices are actually retraining your brain, your neurology, as well as repatterning your vibration to actually be able to receive what's coming your way as it shows up. So it works on 2 levels. It allows you to attract and draw in those things that you want, and then also be able to be up to speed with it, to be able to receive it and start living that way instead of reverting back to those old fearful patterns and that past data.
Well, and this is interesting because we ask, we receive. And so the part that I think you're talking about that is so prominent in the work you do, we ask, we receive, and then we have to act. Like we have to do something.
Yeah.
Like it's something to be done, right?
Yeah.
And, that's the tough part. I mean, I went through that after I graduated. I was supposed to go become some big consultant. And I was totally out of alignment. I was depressed. I dialed the wrong phone number. And, guess what? You're not supposed to be a consultant. You're supposed to do radio. How do we follow the breadcrumbs? What are some tools? What are some tips to help us? And your book is filled with them. And so give us a few little tidbits to take with us.
Absolutely. So actually, I'll give you a little cheater's note when you read the book is if you want to just skip back to the final section, I list some very specific daily practices that you can try on and see how they fit for you. I always recommend give yourself a nice set amount of time to actually see how they work. So do them for 2 weeks straight every day without fail. And if you continue on after that, great. If not, I don't care, but give yourself those 2 weeks so you can see for yourself. And some among the most effective actual practices are some common and uncommon ones. A common one would be meditation or a daily practice of gratitude. And even though those practices are common, there's some misconception about them. Like you have to meditate in the right way. You have to do it a certain way for a certain amount of time a day. And the book really guides you through that to find the way that works for you, the path of least resistance for you. Even if it's 2 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day, it's the consistency piece that really creates the magic. So, there's meditation and then there's, having a daily practice of gratitude, actually pausing every day to bring your focus and your thoughts to the beauty and the abundance and the great things that are already there all the time. No matter what kind of dire straits you think you're in, there's always something to be grateful for and appreciative of. And the reason why we tend to miss these opportunities or tend to not be able to receive the good things that are coming our way is because we're not looking at them. We're not noticing them. And if you're having a daily practice of gratitude, you're training yourself to see the beauty every single day. Law of attraction gets enacted and sends you more things to be grateful for and appreciative of. And all of a sudden you're a glass is half full type person who takes advantage of all of these opportunities that are constantly flowing your way. Now, a third practice that is lesser known and that I really want to highlight today is something called powerful questions. And this is more for you linear, logical-minded people who want to just sink your teeth into something tangible. And I mean, gratitude is, meditation is, yes, but sometimes that can be a little pressure-filled. So powerful questions, we're asking them all the time. The problem is we're asking negatively based ones. Why does everything bad happen to me? What else is going to go wrong today? Why don't I get what I want? And you can feel the energy behind those questions. It just kind of drops you. It kind of like your shoulders even slump and you feel bad. And as a result, your brain starts releasing all of these hormones and stress chemicals that limit its capacity to think on purpose and think resourcefully. And then your vibration lowers and you're literally closing the door, or figuratively closing the door to the universe, handing you exactly what you called for. So when you start asking the right questions, such as, what amazing things are going to happen on this day? What is one beautiful step forward, powerful step forward I can take in my business? What if the perfect relationship just showed up and I knew it, I recognized it? How good can I get at receiving? What magic is in store for me? Those questions feel different. They lift you up. They release happy hormones and chemicals in your brain and raise your vibration and get you into receiving mode. But here's the thing. You write the question out. The only requirement is that it's positively skewed and feels really good in the asking of it. And then you don't answer it. Don't answer it because that's the universe's job. We get to know what we want. The universe gets to deliver on the how. And this daily practice actually trains you to get the heck out of the way and let the universe do its job while you just focus on feeling good and aligned.
Well, I love this because what I asked for in 2003, I wanted to reach 1 million people and help them live life full out. Mm-hmm. I would have never come up with this, not in 1 million years, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so you help people, first of all, understand there is an awakening, understand that aligning is important, but also how to receive. And that I think is so important.
Yeah.
It's being able to see that maybe I didn't ask for an apple, but instead I got an entire bushel of pears for whatever reason. It doesn't really matter. This is really what I hear you saying today and in the book and in your radio show. So I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Thank you for today. Tell people about the radio show. And what's your personal message, Nova? What would you like to leave us with today?
Yeah. The radio show is called Spiritual Alignment Radio, and it's really just this wonderful platform for me to continually give you all real practical tips that you can put into, you can integrate into your life on a consistent basis so that you yourself can begin to see the magic starting to flow, things starting to sync up, and all sorts of serendipities and whatnot. So I'll be having guests, and I'll be covering concepts of the work, different concepts of this work that I do with my clients called the Spiritual Alignment Method, and sharing that with you guys. And then what I would really love to leave everybody with is that this, spirituality, even though, as they say, it ain't for sissies, it doesn't have to be so serious, and it doesn't have to be so hard. Yes, we grow through challenge and contrast and, sort of the tough stuff of life, but we also grow through the beauty. And when you align with who you really are and really stay consistent with that, you get more of that, and it becomes light and fun and easy. Feel good as often as possible and watch the magic unfold for you.
Nora Wightman, everybody. I'm Dr. Pat. I'm all about the magic. I love that. Thank you, Nova. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pat.
Thank you, Benny. Thank you, Rob. And thanks to all of you. Really, an awakening is going on right now for you. And please, please, I hope you heard something today. It's going to help you recognize it. We'll see you next time.
Lights go out and I can't be saved. Tides that I try